welcome to join on stage. During these 2 days, you will be able to listen to speakers with very interesting topics every half hour. And our first host here on stage is the main sponsor for Donsö Shipping Meet 2023. The port of Gothenburg, which is the largest port in Scandinavia and the gateway to the world for a large proportion of Swedish industry. Almost 30% of Swedish foreign trade passes through the port. And the Port of Gothenburg are invited to speak here on stage during those 2 days 4 times with different topics during today and tomorrow. How to measure your CO2 emissions for green business is the topic right now. And we will be listening to one of the most proactive ports within the field. But let's start with a film.
The Global Destination Sustainability Index has named Gothenburg the world's most sustainable destination 6 times in a row.
That's one small step for man.
Everything is connected. What we do here affects people on the other side of the world because planet Earth is a connection of ecosystems. Climate change is a deadly threat to humankind, and what we do now will affect generations to come. It's all connected. That's why Port of Gothenburg has decided to be the world's most sustainable port, and we are well on our way. We follow an ambitious plan with 2 main objectives: to make the logistics chain fossil-free and to push society's transition to future energy sources. Our work has real impact because we connect scientific results with our experience of making innovations robust enough for the future, always in collaboration with top partners both regionally and internationally. And for years, we've run a wide range of climate initiatives. For instance, having trains that go all the way out to the quay, in a shuttle system linking the logistics of sea and land efficiently and sustainably, but also teaming up with important players in the automotive industry to speed up the transition to fossil-free fuels on our roads. We plan to be a large-scale hub for captured carbon dioxide, and we are creating green shipping corridors to other innovative ports in the world. We are electrifying all our port operations down to providing shoreside power for berthed tankers and pushing for the transition to fossil-free bunker fuels with infrastructure for a variety of green fuel options. It's all connected. All our efforts, both at home and through the whole logistics chain, aim at minimizing climate impact on land and at sea. It's a gigantic and complex challenge. That's why we're working together with all partners who share our vision, like our close collaboration with the leading ports of the world, but also as an advocate of change in politics and international organizations. Perhaps the biggest challenge humankind faces today is the transition from fossil fuels to sustainable energy. As the largest energy port in Scandinavia, we push for change and strengthen our partners in the green paradigm shift. Together, we invest heavily in tomorrow's energy solutions so that we can become a large-scale hub for the sustainable energy products of the future. That's how we reduce our CO2 emissions by 70% by 2030 and make a fossil-free future possible so that by then our children can look back at what we do now with relief and maybe even pride. However, we can only reach those objectives if we work together, and future competitive advantage belongs to those who invest in the climate today. Join the green connection to a better future.
Please welcome from the Port of Gothenburg, the Head of Sustainability, Edvard Molitor. Välkommen.
Thank you very much. Let's see if I can get that moving. We hear a lot about the climate goals of 70% until 2030. Right now, I would like to share with you a little bit more details on what we actually mean by measuring carbon dioxide emissions and how, more especially, can we turn this into green business for the future. We want to measure the CO2 emissions for the entire transport chain. As we've heard several times this morning, our goal of 70% less emissions by 2030 includes not only the port operations, but also the seaside and the land side. In order to reach this, we have set together a climate action plan for all these areas, and we will shortly be presenting this in an easy to understand way, where we show the actual emissions, what we're doing, what actions we're taking, and how we can achieve the 70% reduction until 2030. If we look at the goal, for seaside, we need to know what the emissions are. We need to understand what the emissions are, where they come from, in order to know how to mitigate them. Within our 70% goal, we take responsibility for all the emissions in the fairway all the way out to the Vinga Quay. The traffic pattern we take from AIS data. We use this AIS data as a basis to calculate the emissions. But this means that we always base it on calculations. We don't know the actual emissions, which is where we need your help. We need more input and more data to be put together so that we know what the actual emissions are from different ship types. By putting all this together, we can reach more detail and a better understanding of the actual emissions. Therefore, we also look at the entire transport chain, so we also look at the land side. And within the land side, we look all the way out to the outer skirts of the greater Gothenburg area. We're then talking about the truck emissions, and the problem here is that AIS, privately owned, it's GPS on this side, which means it's more difficult. On the sea side, we can use public available AIS data. On the land side, we don't have that data. Therefore, we base this largely on assumptions. We're currently working on trying to improve the level of detail so that we can have better data all the way from A to B, including the sea leg, the land leg, and the port operations in between. What we want to do then is put all of this together in an emission dashboard. Our idea is to have continuous monitoring, present this in real time to provide transparency so that we all know what we're talking about when we talk about emissions. By covering the entire transport chain, we can make sure that we make the right decisions on how to lower the emissions. We work with a number of different partners, and we verify this also by external partner in the form of IVL, the Swedish Environmental Institute. And we hope to then be able to create a dashboard where everyone can see in real time what is the emissions and how far away are we from the target of 70% in 2030. What we hope for is to create a better understanding. We think that detailed data provides better basis for action for the future. And we think that we as a port is the natural hub for data collection, since we're located in the middle of the transport chain. And we think that together, we can improve quality of data and find more efficient actions. More actions to create awareness and understanding of what we actually mean by reaching the climate goals. So this is a reach out to more partners to work together with us to reach the targets. Thank you.
Thank you, Edvard. There might be some questions from the audience, and if you want to have any question, you just raise your hand, and then I'll help you. How can the delegates and the audience help you, the Port of Gothenburg, to get the right data into your emission dashboard?
Well, what we hope for is that today we base it a lot on assumptions. We take AES data, and then we'd say a vessel of this size and this type will normally emit this much. Of course, ship owners, many of you here, have better understanding and knowledge exactly what you're burning, at what speed, and what actual engines you're using. If we can get a hold of that data and put that together on an aggregated level, we can get better detail.
So how can they connect with
By
you?
providing data to each other, sharing data in between us, cooperation.
You know that Dunster Shipping Meet 2023 says we change for the future. What is your biggest task and challenge to be a part of that and force that?
I think the biggest challenge is going to be the change of fuels for the future. And that's also why my colleagues will talk more about this later on, future fuels and how we can provide that. Because we first need to know what are the emissions, then we need to know what actions to take. And the main action is to switch fuels. And there we have a very important role from the port side to actually make sure that those fuels are available.
And you are on your way.
We're on your way. Yeah.
Yes. Is there any question from the audience here? Well, I know that you will stay here, so if there is any question, they can go personal to you.
That's most welcome.
You have been here, haven't you, at Dunster Shipping Meet several times?
I have.
Yes. So what is your expectations now for this year?
What I think is that we're actually coming closer to the real actions. We've been talking about it for a long time, but now we're actually starting to move in the various actions and the programs. So that, I think, will be the change for this year. And then, of course, I always look forward to the banquet, like everyone.
Of course. So then, thank you very much, Edvard Moriltor, and see you tonight.